YouTubers. Good morning, it's Robb Moffett. Guys, I've been listening to James Altucher's show the last few months, and he's, in my opinion, is probably one of the best interviewers I've come across in a very long time. He has some pretty fascinating people on his show from time to time, and he asks some really good questions, and you find out things that you would have never known if you hadn't listened to the show. But anyway, he is a very interesting person himself. He's reinvented himself several times throughout his career because he's lost all of his money, gone broke and started over, and done very well for himself. I noticed he has repeatedly talked about daily practice, about things people can do in their life every day to improve themselves, and I'm always interested in self-improvement. And one of the things that I noticed he had down was to write a list of ideas. And I tried this a couple times, but I stopped. But the last month, this July, I've pretty much done it every day, and I've been getting better at it every day. And I thought maybe it'd be something interesting to show you guys. Maybe make a YouTube video about it. These are some of the lists I came up for this month, and most of them are personal. I won't share, but I made one this morning. It's really not ideas, but it's sort of things. I made a list of 10 things people don't eat anymore, and vintage foods, things people just stopped eating or drinking. It was sort of interesting because everybody eats. We all have the same thing in common with that. Some of the things you wouldn't have it in common, and it'd be like personal, so I can't share it. But some of these are ideas; they're not things. But I thought maybe we could go over what I came up with. We make an interesting YouTube video and share some memories. These are the 10 things off the top of my head that people used to eat or drink a long time ago when I was a kid. And really, I can't remember how long ago I've seen anybody or heard anybody use them or eat them, drink them. It's kind of interesting how they were popular one time, and now they're not. It's just something might be interesting to make a video. If you guys like videos about a list of 10 things or 10 ideas, since I'm going to be doing it every day in the morning, I might make more of these videos. Let's see how this one turns out. This is one of the first things I thought of that nobody eats anymore. We ate when I was a kid. When I was a kid, we were poor. We grew up kind of poor. For a while, we were on welfare. And back then, welfare was different. You didn't get cards that had money on them. You could buy whatever you want. You got stuff from the government. And one of the things they gave you was lard. It's rendered pork fat. I can still remember one day the daughter of the landlady that we were renting a house from came in our house with the landlady. And she was in our kitchen. And she was young, like 12 or 13. And she said to her mom, "Oh, Mom, they cook with lard." We had a little box of lard on the stove there. Because, as you can see, refrigeration not required. And it does give kind of a good flavor to some things. And actually, for cooking some things, like baking things, lard is actually excellent. But you want to make sure you get the extra hydrogenated lard with that propylgalligate. But yeah, I don't see people using lard anymore. Another thing is we used to eat when I was a kid, because we were poor, was bologna sandwiches, fried bologna sandwiches. You gave me one right now, I wouldn't turn my nose up at it. I think, but you got to have white bread, and it's got to be on mustard. And you have to cut them so they when they cook up, they make like a cross. Now, you don't be a Philistine and use mayonnaise like my brother. You've got to have super fresh white bread and mustard with the fried bologna, and that makes a good sandwich. I don't know when's the last time I had one of those. If you don't cut the edges, and it's real thin bologna, they curl up kind of convex. But if it's thick bologna, they do the opposite, make like concave, and you can put like mashed potatoes and peas in there. But it's better if you cut and make like the iron cross when you fry your bologna. Yeah, it makes a good sandwich. I know what they put in bologna, and I know you shouldn't eat it, but back then that was something really good. And fresh white bread with mustard. Now, you could also make them like Pac-Man, but that came later. Okay, what about the purple cow? How many of you ever had one of these? If you have the jelly or jam left over and a tiny bit left in there, you pour some milk in there and shake it up, and you make yourself a little grape milkshake. We would call them purple cow. That was good. This was sort of like what we had when we got commodity food from the government. It was USDA. When you were on welfare and you got food assistance, you didn't get money. You didn't get a card. And before, the card was the stamps, and that was even more embarrassing than the card. At least with the card, you could pretend it was like a credit card. But back then, you had to go in your car or a bus and get some boxes of food that the government gave you. And it was cans of, well, it was mostly boxes and bags of grains. You had rice and peas and beans and oats and cornmeal and flour and some containers of peanut butter. You had blocks of, it was sort of like Velveeta cheese, but it wasn't as good as Velveeta cheese, if you can imagine. And every once in a while you get some cans of mystery meat. It was like gristle and fat. It was like something that the people who made Spam wouldn't really want to sell. I would eat all the other commodity food, but the commodity meat was just kind of rough. And they had the powdered eggs that had a really strong taste to it, and the powdered milk that no matter what you did to it, it was always clumpy. So that's what you had from the government when you were on welfare back then. But no complaints. We would make sometimes some little desserts out of the peanut butter, and we would have to buy the cocoa and get the sugar and the oats and some oil and mix it up in a pan and form it into a ball and put it in the refrigerator to get cold, and they'd make delicious little no-bake cookies. They were more like no-bake dessert meatballs, but you know, it was delicious with the peanut butter and the oats and the chocolate. It was delicious. Chicken livers. When's the last time you seen anybody eat chicken livers? Chicken livers are probably the most nutrient-dense food there is, but there's tons of cholesterol, so nobody eats them anymore. Plus, I remember a friend of mine at work, he saw me eating chicken livers. He got hysterical. I thought he was going to need help. He kept saying, "You're eating a filter! You're eating a filter!" He couldn't stand it. He was going crazy. I told him later it might be a filter, but it doesn't store the. It said he said, "Well, filter out the toxins in the food. Why would you want to eat that?" Well, it does filter them out, but it doesn't store it. That's not the storage place for toxins in your body. It sends it out and excretes it from your body. You don't store bad things in your body in the liver. Otherwise, the liver will go bad. If you can eat the other parts of the body, you can eat the liver too. So chicken liver's got a bad rap. And if you cook them right, they're delicious. Oh, Lordy, Jello. I don't know what it was. I grew up really in the early 60s. But before that, in the 50s and on into the 60s, people went crazy over Jello. They used to put everything in it. And I'm kind of glad they don't do that anymore. Now, don't get me wrong, plain Jello, like strawberry Jello or regular Jello, it's okay. I like saying yellow Jello for some reason, but the things they used to do with Jello, like I said, plain strawberry Jello, nothing wrong with that in the world. But these other things, man, they'd scare you. You know, plain yellow Jello, cafeteria, there's nothing wrong with that. And sometimes some of the other stuff they'd make would be okay, but other times you'd have nightmares. Yeah. Crown roast of Frankfurters, oh Lordy. Yeah, sometimes they're okay. But people don't go crazy over Jello anymore like they used to. Oh, Popeye, one-eyed sailor. That's what we used to call him. One-eyed sailor, Popeye. Plain toast, cut a hole in the middle, put egg in there, put some cheese on it. That's living, man. I don't know why people don't use these anymore. But nothing wrong with them. They're delicious. You got your three food groups. You got the crunchy part, you got the fat part, and you got the salty part. Kool-Aid. I'm always seeing where people are going crazy about obesity in this country. We're drinking too much soda. We never drank soda. Excuse me. We drank Kool-Aid. And that was the cheapest thing you could drink. Mostly the grape or the cherry. The root beer never did taste right. We hardly ever drank soda. Once in a while, we would go to Frederick's or Shell's. I don't think there's anybody left in Miami that remembers Frederick or Shell's. I would get a bottle of Mott's soda. It was about quart size, I think, and get cream soda or root beer Mott's, 25 cents. That was high living. But rest of the time, Kool-Aid, if you were lucky. Yoo-hoo, that was another one. Although I liked it, my dad hated it. I think someone told him when he was a kid that they made it with spoiled milk. So he always got a sour look on his face when he saw us drinking it. We loved it as a kid, but I don't know when's the last time I had one. But it was usually popular in the 50s. When I was growing up in the 60s, it really wasn't too popular. But back in the 50s, it was a big drink. They advertised it really heavy. Of course, my dad, he drank Schlitz beer, and that was the most popular selling beer in the world in the 1950s. So you don't see people drinking it anymore. Hash, leftover hash. You see people eating the cannabis hash and smoking it, but a leftover hash, you don't see that too often. Nowadays, with a big turkey carcass left over, people throw it out. It goes in the garbage. But man, we used to make, and you can't get it at a restaurant, leftover hash with potatoes and tomatoes and celery. That's good stuff. I wouldn't mind having some right now. Well, guys, that's my list of 10 things I don't see anybody eating anymore or drinking anymore. They used to have when I was a kid. I thought it'd be an interesting video. I'm going to keep writing every morning a list of 10 ideas or 10 things. If I come up with something that might make a good YouTube video, I'll put it on. If you guys like it, I might continue doing them. And maybe next one I'll have a list of ideas instead of a list of things. It might be kind of fun. So go ahead and leave in the comments things that you used to eat, nobody eats anymore, or drink. It might be interesting. I remember one time, I'll let you go after I tell the story. It was funny. I had to film a wedding for a friend, and part of my duties, I had to go pick up a mutual friend of myself and the groom. A friend of ours, he lived on a boat by himself. Old guy, old crusty codger old guy, kind of a grouchy, sour old individual. But he was still, we liked him, and he was invited to the wedding. I had to go pick him up. He didn't have a car. He was about 20 years older than I was, and I was a long drive. I was making conversation, and all I said was like, "Hey, you know, when you were a kid, was there stuff that you used to eat nobody eats anymore?" And he got mad. I don't know what it was, but it's like I think he thought like I thought he was super old, like I was talking to Benjamin Franklin, and I want to know what they ate back in the Stone Age or something. But I asked him what he used to eat. We don't eat anymore when he was a kid, and he got mad as heck. But I'm always fascinated by that. What are things that people used to do a long time ago or eat, and they don't do anymore? And it's kind of fun to talk about, unless you're some people. All right, guys, I'm rambling here. It's time to go. Don't forget, watch my videos. I come back, do new videos every week. And y'all come back, like, subscribe, do all the good stuff. Hope you come back. And leave comments. It's always fun. Take care. And go have a fried bologna sandwich.